and gentlemen, live everywhere, intergalactically throughout the world. And I have to say, I miss a lot of things and I appreciate a lot of things. And I hope my video doesn't keep cutting out. And I hope y'all can hear me. But we're back. Shannon, we're back.
We are back. And Mel, we can't see your face.
Oh, geez. Oh, my gosh. All right. Let's see if I can make some adjustments. Hopefully, you can hear me. It's what happens
I can
when
hear
you
you
have a
great.
high def camera that doesn't want to play with you. I may have to come back into this. So
I mean, you
stay
could just
tuned.
play the incognito side. Dun, dun, dun.
So, Shannon, last time we were together doing this, where were we?
Black Hat, DEF CON. Actually, we
Black
left
Hat.
at DEF CON. We had skipped over to DEF CON from Black Hat.
Yep. I
Sitting in the
missed their B
cafeteria,
sides.
meeting people.
Right. I missed their B sides, but we did. I don't. What? How many between the Cyber Women's Awards and the gala? Black Hat. I did B sides.
B-sides
That's okay. That's okay,
in DEF
Shannon. We get
CON.
it. You were busy, and then we rocked DEF CON. Um, that was incredible. That was an incredible week.
It
I needed
was.
about 15 hours of sleep to recover from that when I landed on Saturday. But I have to say, I will. It was the first time I had done that kind of marathon of with the equipment and everything else. It was incredible,
It
right?
was.
Why don't
Laugh.
you walk us through some of the folks that we had on that we did individual interviews with and
Oh my
whatnot? Because
gosh, now
my
I'm gonna
brain
have to
is.
remember everyone's names. That you didn't tell me I was gonna get a quiz. Let's see, we had Jeremy from Blackwired. We had oh gosh, I'm like already drawing a blank. This is awful. This is really bad. You weren't supposed to quiz
The
me.
majestic queen
We had
herself.
everyone. We had Caitlin
Who was
Poppin. We had Ray Poppin. Oh my gosh. Who didn't we have? The team from Revealed came over.
we
We
uh
oh
we
my
had
gosh, the fun in the cafeteria at DEF CON with the three individuals. I feel
right
really bad right now. I'm gonna have to like call them all out after this in a post, be like, I still love you. I just barely remember anyone's names today.
right. Well, so we had Iman, we had a bunch of great folks, and
Oh, Sophie. We
honestly,
had Sophie in the restaurant.
that's thank you. That I was hoping that you would remember that one.
I remember
That's why
all
I
of
said
them. We were just sitting
majestic,
here, we're like,
right?
whoa, my brain just went
I know.
totally.
We had so many people that just came in because this is unprompted, unscripted. Like
It was
again,
great.
it was like we there were a couple of people we talked to beforehand, but then I was roaming around just pulling people over. Most of them I knew. Anyway, so yes, we had Jeremy was phenomenal. I mean, just some of the bits that they dropped on us were
Oh,
incredible.
Joseph from Arc Like Sick.
Joseph,
Yeah.
absolutely. I have to say there was somebody that was there but wasn't on our show. And I have to say this live streaming was really important to
Uh,
me, especially given their stature, their experience and everything else. And I got to sit with them for like a hot 5 minutes before they had to leave. We couldn't record anything else. And I said, Shannon, what do you think we should do? And you said, we got to get them on. And I
you
said,
have to.
I'll think about it. I'll think about it. Right. Um, so I guess we thought about it. It took us a month to recover from all of that. I guess we can have him on here.
Our favorite, Jimmy
Welcome, Jimmy.
Sanders.
So yes, my video may lag. Don't worry, it's not about me. I may even just go off screen at some point. But um, so Jimmy, we got to sit with you for you had lunch with Shannon and Jeremy and a bunch of other folks, and then I got to come in for like a hot minute with Sasha, and then I guess it must have been I thought I had showered that day. But it must have been something I said because within minutes you're like blah 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 blah. I gotta run. So I was like, oh, okay. Didn't mean to offend you with my looks, but okay. Um, now I appreciate you that you've been able to get through whatever trauma you were impacted with during lunch to join us here. I guess it's the separation. You're not next to me, so you can't, you're not offended by anything that you see or smell. So welcome, Jimmy. I have to say, I've been waiting for this for a while. Yes, we had to reschedule this to a little bit earlier because of my scheduling ability to, or inability to schedule properly. Uh, Honored to have you here. I have to say, having found out pretty much around that week that, because I was like, wait, Jimmy, like, you hear names like, oh, Jimmy's here. I'm like, Jimmy, I don't know Jimmy, but whatever. Yeah, let's go hang, let's go chill, let's go talk. I'm like, oh, that Jimmy, the one who may or may not have just taken over ISSA International. Oh yeah. Let's get him on the show. So Shannon, I don't know if you have anything to add, but I figured we'd let Jimmy introduce himself. But it's up to you.
No, I don't have anything to add. I'm just excited to hear about all the fun things from Jimmy because I haven't actually talked to Jimmy since Black Hat. So this is exciting that we get to socialize and do our thing.
So Jimmy, why don't you go ahead? I'm going to take us two off stage. Why don't you go ahead and kind of walk us through who you are? Give us some knowledge transfer, just a little bit, because we got 30, what is it? 50 something minutes to go. So we're going to be rifting through whatever comes to top of mind. It could be underwater basket weaving. It could be your early days, your late days. But the whole goal of this is to tell the leadership stories, right? It could be as far
Yes.
back as how you got started to why you're doing what you're doing now. So that what I want is the world to know, what can we learn from Jimmy on executive leadership teams, again, or underwater basket weaving. All right, Shannon, we're hopping off. We're going to give him the spotlight for a couple minutes, and we can laugh and point at him in the background. Nobody will see us.
So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Jimmy Sanders. I'm the current president for ISA International. Before that, I ran security for Netflix DVD. I've been in this security industry for at least 20 something years. Uh, I started off in technology in 99 when the Y2K bug was hitting, and that's how I got my first immersion into technology. And I started running security for companies in 2006. And so I've been doing computer security and running computer security for companies ever since. And I've been a board member of ISA International for at least the last 4 years. And I was the president for San Francisco ISSA for at least the last 12 years.
All right, Shannon. I was seeing he was coming to a close with his little elevator pitch, and his patented little. This is how I introduced myself. All right, Jimmy, let's get real. Where are you from? What did you do? How did you get into computers? We need some juice here. We spill the tea
Okay.
on what motivates you. What motivated you the last 10 to 20 years? What motivated you to become a board member? Walk us through. Give us some
That's a
juice here, man.
that's a lot of questions. That I guess I can
Give us
try to
something.
answer.
Pick one. Pick one.
Okay.
Go
I'll
for
pick
it.
one. What motivates me was that when I first got into security and I switched jobs, I didn't realize what I didn't realize about negotiations in terms of computer security. So I remember I tell people my $500 story, or I call it my 70K story. And that was, I was working at a job and I was working in security and I thought I was doing a good job. And I was review time comes and everybody gets the review and they said, "Oh, Jimmy, here's your bonus. It's some number. We can call it 55,500." And I was like, "Give me another 500 just so I can say I make 56K." And they're like, "Nope, we can't do that because the way HR works, we have certain percentages. You can't go outside those percentages." Well, that was the best $500 that I never got because my next job that I landed 6 months later was I made 30,000 more. So realizing that, realizing how HR works, realizing negotiation and how negotiations work when you start making a salary and not making hourly wages has changed the way I try to mentor people, talk to people. Because if you're not empowering yourself and understanding your value, then your company never will as well. And so I always try to help people find their value point, whether it's how you make more money or how you get more opportunities or how you get a better education. One of those, those are the things that motivate me.
That's a soundbite and a half. I love that. I
Thank you.
wow. I I have full body chills on that one. Know how to
Thank you.
value yourself. The
Yeah.
$500 story. That is that
Yeah.
the sub headline to your book, the $500 story. Like,
It might
Honestly,
be.
the headline to my book is called Navigating the Valley.
Ooh, I like
okay,
that.
Because
okay.
because navigating the valley, obviously I never really speak on it, but there are so many things about being in Silicon Valley. First, being a black head of security. Generally, I was the first person at the table or only person at the table of color. Also, the journey into security leadership, because leadership is all about trust. So the people at the board, the executives, they have to trust you. Um, then being part of ISA, that amazing journey. But ISA, it was funny because I just came back from Nashville, and people in Nashville love to make fun of all the crazy Californians, and so I'm sitting in the audience, probably one of the few Californians, and everybody making fun of California people, and I was laughing so much because I was like, yeah, but because there's so many misconceptions about California and Silicon Valley in particular, because the world of venture capitalists, the world of startups, it's it's a bubble within a bubble, and if you don't know about it, then you have these preconceived notions about, oh yeah, there are all these crazy things. Everybody driving around in Bentleys. No, the billionaires you see, they don't drive around in Bentleys. They just have their regular Tesla with their blue jeans and t-shirt. So um, that's my type of motivation in dealing with Silicon Valley.
I love it. I love it.
I'm taking
So
notes right now
you're
myself.
uh, I all right, now I'm like completely lost. My video is shot. I don't even know if y'all can hear me. Let me stop my camera and
We
start
can
it up
hear you.
again.
I hear you
We
perfectly
can.
All
fine
right.
now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? I may just take. Well, I can't take myself off stage, but
No, you can't take yourself off
uh,
stage. We might lose you.
so we've got the East Coast West Coast connection going on right now. We got
Yep.
Shannon out in the east. You and I are
Yep.
holding up the fort here. I'm in SoCal. You're up north. Let me ask you something because yesterday we kicked off Hispanic Heritage Month, right?
Hmm.
And I will say this as a brown person. Uh, and I'm assuming you'll agree with this. Every day should be Black and Hispanic Month, all right, and day and everything else. Um, Walk us through because I want to be authentic, genuine, unique, and really get the message out there. You are a Black man in a world where the struggles are real, the challenges are real, just like anybody else, right? White or black, brown or otherwise. But what have you seen that you've had to do to go above and beyond? And I say this with the biggest of hearts, Shannon, women as well, which is why I champion so many different efforts, like being that today's, yesterday and today are the kickoff for Hispanic Heritage Month. I want to be able to talk about diversity. I want to be able to talk about the struggles of Black, brown, and women, which are easily represented on this call right here. So Jimmy, walk us through something that you can share with us on some kind of bullshit that you had to deal with, or absorb, or deflect, or reflect, or defend. I'm just saying.
So, so being a black security leader is a double-edged sword. In that, first of all, I got into technology because of I didn't have to deal with being, I guess, black or white, even though you still deal with it. But with technology, and hopefully when you're still an engineer, it's mainly about zeros and ones and can you code or not. And that's why I fell in love with technology, because it wasn't do you look smart? Because I used to grow up all the time, and I remember in high school and in elementary, I used to wear fake glasses because everybody said, Jimmy, you don't look smart. And I always wondered, what does look smart even look like? You know, and I grew up in a small town in Texas. Um, so coming out here, I discovered technology, and that's the thing I fell in love with. The struggle is always real, but the there's everybody has a struggle. And so I was talking to a young man in Nashville, and he was like, Jimmy, I'm a person of color. I'm having a hard time in my job. And I'm like, guess what? Everybody has a hard time at their job, whether it's political or not. The color of your skin is another thing that could either be worked for you or against you. But it's up to you in terms of how you decide to let that dictate your life. Because once you leave your parents' fold, then your life has to become yours. And the arena that you decide to battle in or do business in, you have to own that. Meaning, nobody told you to go into this. Nobody's making you do this. So if you have encounters in that arena, whether it's you being a minority woman, you being a super smart Asian, you being an old elderly, white person, or a young white person, or whatever color, everybody has certain, origin stories that they've had to overcome and struggle from. Some more than others. But I don't believe in fair. I tell people all the time, I want to find out all the cheat codes so that as I'm running ISA International, I want it to be the best organization, period. Not I want it to be the best run by a Black person or the best, in security. Hopefully we make ISA International the best international organization that we can ever have. And so, that's, I deal with that struggle all the time.
I love this. I love this. And honestly, being able to put a few things aside and just look at, I want to do the best job I can for the industry, for the people, for the team, for this, that, and the other, regardless of where you come from, is huge. And I appreciate that. Um, I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of people who are, who we represent across the three of our pillars. We're 180 to that, right? They'll only.
But that's the whole
Yeah, yeah.
point,
Go ahead.
is that if you call yourself a leader and you want to be, and you say you're about being inclusive, but then you only recruit people from a certain segment. It's like one of the funny things that I used to do at Netflix. I called it the day in the life. And I would bring in all these students from all around the Bay Area and from all the colleges. So I would bring in students from Stanford, Santa Clara, Loney College, Merritt, all of them. And I would tell each university and each educational institution, you can bring 10 or 15 of your brightest students, and they would bring them in. And so we would have this room at Netflix. It's called the Kabuki room, and that's the theater room where we film the movies. And so we bring them into Kabuki, and I would assign them in groups and start talking to them. One of the first things you realize, the reason why I'm telling the story, is one of the first things you realize is that you can think you're doing diversity right because you just recruited a diverse group of people from Berkeley, or a diverse group of people from Stanford or Loney. The thing that ended up happening, though, is I could tell exactly where those people came from in terms of their education based on what kind of rebuttal or argument they gave. The way you give an argument is formed a lot by your education and not necessarily by your culture. And so by having a diverse group of people from a diverse educational institutions, to me, that's diversity. Because just because you hired a lot of minorities from Berkeley, you're still going to get a whole think tank of people from Berkeley. And so that's what I'm about, is like, you don't do diversity for the diversity's sake. You do it so that not everybody makes the same mistake when they build a firewall, because we're taught the exact same. And so everybody's firewall is built the same and you can just crack it easily. You
Well, you're
build it so
always
that
looking for that unique person, that person that's going to think outside the box. And just like you said, everyone knows how to build build one thing the same way. Well, what happens when you need someone to think differently to say, hey, wait, we need to handle this situation. Anyone know
Yes.
how to do this? And then all of a sudden you get that person that raises their hand.
And not even if they know how to do it, but ask that question in the room. By thinking of something different, because one of the funny things that always happens, especially, we're in security, so, hackers, think about it. When programmers build stuff, a lot of times they believe that, oh, this checkbox, nobody would ever try to input text into a checkbox. That's just dumb. Nobody would do that. But obviously, we know in security, the first thing you try is every input, you try to do some form of malicious validation. So
you try to break everything.
you try to break everything, exactly. So that's the way when I think about diversity and also being a leader, because that's the other amazing thing that is only when I got to the international board did I realize almost everybody on the international board has been the president of their chapter or like their head of security or some amazing title throughout the world. So it's not you being just a leader of a group in your local place. You're a leader of a group of leaders throughout the world. And that's an amazing thing, but you can't be, you have to be inclusive and you have to be listening to their thoughts because they joined the board for a reason. Give them their thoughts. Give them their ability to empower themselves. That will also empower ISSA.
So true. So
All
true.
right. There was one thing you said which I appreciated, and I actually saw this in play with regards to the school selection for in an organization that I was in for interns. Right? Uh, they had they would bring in 40 interns every summer, but they picked them from 4 schools.
Yes.
They would pick a great, diverse, really, really culturally mixed, perfectly balanced, but from 4 schools. Right? There's a lot of schools that are out there, right? These 4 schools happen to be top tier schools, right? So when you get that group think, like you said, right? When you get that, so yes, you might be able to bring a cultural piece to the game. But if you've got the group think of, and I won't call schools out, your top law schools, your top this school, your top that school, right? That's the mindset you get, right? And this is also from a hiring standpoint. This is why I run global disc assessments to showcase to people that global disc assessments can, at a team level, can tell you where you're skewed because you hire for cultural fit. Well, what does that
Yes.
really mean? Cultural fit is, are you like me? Can you handle things like me or us or otherwise, right? Amazon ran into this issue with their AI based yada yada, right?
Yes.
In their hiring practice, whatever, how many years ago that they tried. Obviously, kudos to them. They pulled it out, right? When you have a collective and you're using that to feed, and I'm saying AI not just for the fact of saying AI, but this is pertinent to this conversation. If you feed it a profile and you say hire me this, that's groupthink, right?
Yes.
So I love that, and I'll give you, and Shannon, and I've said the story before. I hope they're listening to this. I hope they're on. But I had a role where I needed to hire a senior IT director and leader, and I was going through the resumes, and it was really really interesting. I have to say this story because I really want you to understand what went through my head. And I was just about to make an offer, and I said to myself, I'm like, I want to go back to this one resume. There was something that stuck with me. That resume wasn't, stellarly presented, but they had enough experience. Then I scrolled down to this one job that they had, and I was like, I need to get him back on the phone and ask him about that job again. And I get on a call with them again. I go, hey, so walk me through. So you were a professional magician for 7 years, and he's like, and they went through and they were, da 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 da, and that's when I saw what I see when I ask people certain things like, walk me through your proudest moment at XYZ job. Walk me through your biggest accomplishment and project. They were glowing. They were rattling off a story. They were telling me fun things. And I said, let me see. I need to get somebody who needs to talk to people, work with teams, coordinate, do logistical things, and has the discipline to get through something. If you know anything about being a magician, I mean, my forte is 13, 14 years old, getting that ridiculous kit after selling 1,000 holiday cards, right? If you know anything about being a magician, sleight of hand, audience, perception, everything else, hired him. Hired him. Best decision I ever made, right? Because they proved themselves while they were no longer a magician. They practiced. They carried all of that through. Who hires somebody because they're a magician for an IT global role?
I
This
totally
guy
would.
does,
I totally would.
But
right?
but
Right.
but what you're saying is that you're looking at transcendent skills, right? Skills that go beyond your position. It's funny because for my last 6 months now, I've just been traveling, doing a lot of fun stuff. But you realize there's only there's only so many skills that you really look for in a leader, right? You look for either you look for somebody who's a psychopath, which hopefully we stay away from because that's the toxic environment. Or you telling, oh, Shannon's a psychopath? Oh. or
No,
or
no.
you or you or you look for the person, right, is who's trustworthy or seemingly trustworthy, who owns up to their mistakes, but who also empowers you. Because if you're the most technical person on your team and you're the leader, then you won't have a really strong team. You may produce something because you're pulling everybody up and you're making them do stuff, but you're not empowering your team. So somebody who can empower the people, if you're better after you meet that manager or that leader, that's a good leader. And so,
And that
yeah,
reminds me, Jimmy, the first time
mhm,
I ever really sat down and met you, I met you. I forget specifically where we met, but at RSA is when we got to know each other very well,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
About 3 years ago. And we sat down, we had a coffee, and you challenged me. And it was one of the best challenges. And like, it's time, Shannon. It's time for you to get out there and start speaking. It's time for you to start doing these things. You barely knew me. And that was the first thing you said to me. And you challenged me. You're like, these are the people I want you to talk to. Now get back to me when you're done talking to. And I did it. I reached out to all of these individuals. I reached out to all these people. So then the next time I saw you in person was at Black Hat a few months later. And you were like, okay, so I see you did it. All right, you're coming with me to this event now. And it was fascinating because you were willing now to take me to the next place because you saw I rose to the challenge. And you brought me to a close knit circle where you guys were chatting about just work and talking about the next stage. And you were like, this is not a selling gig. I just want you to come and listen and talk. And I did that. And since then, you've always brought me to places to raise to the challenge and associate me and learn and teach. So I love what you just said because it's really fascinating. Is a leader challenges you, but when they see that you take that step to go there, they're willing to take you to the next place and the next place because they know you're going to grow and you're going to do the right things.
That is one of the craziest, saddest things that I've had as a mentor. Is I always tell my mentees because I've been mentoring for the last 10 years, and generally that's why I started the day in the life at Netflix, because my issue was mentoring about 2 to 3 people a year is a lot, but you don't really get the impact. So hopefully, we'll be, and so I've been trying to work on systems and solutions to do more mentoring. But one of the issues I would always tell my mentees is that, like, you're gonna hit the 100 to 150K barrier where your beliefs will be tested, because what ends up happening is you get into the security game and you don't really realize how much money is out there. And I would tell them all the time, you're going to hit a number that you would never thought that you would ever hit, and you're going to hit it and you're going to stop because you're in it because you realize that, okay, that's good enough. And in technology and security, we are always doing security. We're always learning more technology because we're not chasing the money. We're chasing the solution. We're trying to make our companies better. And so I would have like 2 of the 3 mentees would always stop when they made like $100,000 to $110,000. They would be like, "Oh, that's the most money I've ever seen in my life," and I was like, "You are so close to discovering that it's not the money you're chasing. Once you realize it's not the money you're chasing and it's the solution, then you the salary goes astronomical. But you have to break through that it's not the money you're chasing." Because what ends up happening, you're chasing the money during a downturn, you go back to your hometown of wherever, right? But hopefully it's the technology, it's the passion you're chasing, and that's what keeps you in the game in the long run.
So true, right? I see it now with my own teams, right? As you teach them. I'm taking a Jimmy's lesson book, and I challenge my teams. And one of the big things I've been implementing, and you can tell me if this is good or bad, but I sit them down and I say, "All right, guys, tell me what your professional, financial, and personal goals are." And they look at me and they're always like, what do you mean? It's not just about your business goals, it's about your whole life goal. And I sit down because they said, all right, if you want to make $200,000 a year and you're doing this job, now we've got to look at, well, how do we evolve, and what steps do we need to take, and what more challenges you need to do to climb to the summit. And you get to the point where some people look at that and say, well, 80,000 or 110,000, that's a lot of money. And it's like, yeah. Well, is it really about the money, or do you have a different goal? What's your personal goal? Do you want to own a house? Do you want to own a car? Where do you want to be? Right. So it's really that trueness. And then my favorite is always, well, I want to be really good at technology. Well, what part of technology? Yes. And you start challenging them more in that aspect, and that it's honestly been a lot of fun mentoring my teams in that perspective, because it's changing their landscape of where to think, where to go, how to do it, and even starting to put deadlines on it, which is fun too.
And that's why it was funny because I met with the ISA board and the ISA executive committee, and I laid out my North Star plan, because that's the whole point, right? Is that what is your goal in your life, not what somebody else's. And if you don't understand what you're trying to do, then you can't blame other people if they can't help you out trying to figure out what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
It was funny because I was talking to another person, and one of my goals is that you got to find out what you're the expert in. I don't care if you're the expert tea maker, the expert at IPv6. I don't care what it happens to be. You have to become an expert at something, because then you start being able to own it and demonstrate your value. But if you're not the expert in anything, like, you can just be the expert at learning really fast or something, but you the person have to figure that out. Yeah, exactly. You can be the expert at underwater basket weaving, but guess what? Somebody out there will pay you a lot of money to do that.
So true.
Right.
So true.
Right. I love this because both of you brought up something that is near and dear to my heart, which is the mentoring component, right? And I've said this in an interview that may or may not get published today, but we go through stages, right? First stage is we think we have a passion or an interest in something, so we learn it. Then we practice it. We start making more money. We start getting deeper. To your point, Shannon, we start to refine maybe what we might want, right? We start to seek help. That's a whole other piece that I'll talk about in a minute. And then once we get to that top third level, not really the top level, but we'll talk about that one as well, where you're like, I'm doing well. I can handle this. There may be some more learning, but I have enough behind me that I need to now go reach back, reach left, reach up, and help people through this. So mentoring, coaching, being an ally, being an advocate, being an accomplice, whatever you want to classify it as, is huge from a leadership standpoint. So Shannon, you dropped them nuggets in there like you were just going to slide by on this. No, you're not just going to slide by on this, because one of the things that I really appreciate of what you said is, there's one thing to say, hey, I need to build you an executive leader or technical leader or whatever it is. But then you talked about what I call the North Star, right? How do you take everything and pull it together, right? Your personal, your family, your professional, your ambitions, your interests. You may come in saying, I want to be ethical pen tester. And in a hot minute, all of a sudden you're like, yeah, no, I like configurations and, AppSec better, right? So to me, when you ask someone that and they're like taken back and like, what do you mean? Why are you asking me about my personal life? I'm like, well, are you making money so you can go on bigger vacations? Are you making money because you've got to support your family? Are you making money because you just want to prove to yourself that you can continue to be ambitious? What is that core root cause? Right, and we're always talking about root cause, right? So what is it that you're, and now I'm going to drop it in here, the 5 V's, right? What's your view of yourself? What are your values? Are you vulnerable enough to ask for help? What's your voice? How are you getting that out there so that people know who you are? And the last one, because it's a step into the last one, is what's your vision? What's that North
So,
Star? How do you pull
so
this all together and go?
what you're saying is one of the hardest things for people who get into a high executive position or a high management position that came from an engineering side or independent contributor side, and that's you didn't really envision yourself being in that executive position. You got elevated to that. And so by having a leadership coach, that's one of the things I'm working on for the executive forum. That's one of the things I tell all of my peers that'll change the game for almost everybody is somebody in your corner who doesn't have a personal opinion about you. They want to see you succeed, but they don't necessarily like you or they don't necessarily dislike you. They just want they so they are able to look at you in a more objective fashion than what your enemies would say about you or your allies.
Woo.
Well, wow, and I love the fact that they'll say what your enemies say, your best friend says, whatever it is.
Yes.
They're also the person that's going to tell you when it doesn't look right, when it
Yes.
smells wrong, when it's not doing the job. They're going to be the ones that you can turn to that says the baby looks ugly, let's fix it, right?
And,
And
and
it's
that's
not a bad thing either.
no, it's a thing. And the other thing, right, about the leadership coach, and this is the part of where you have to be a leader within yourself, is that you don't have to take their advice. If you think that they're leading you from away from your North Star, but maybe in a, the direction they think is more positive, it's up to the leader to be able to withstand the criticism of others, even if it's
So true.
overwhelming. So you that's where understanding your core value, but still not to discredit. I love having a leadership coach, and I recommend that, or just a peer or somebody, because along the journey you're always wondering what's next. One of the funny things, especially being in Silicon Valley, is that a lot of the CISOs, they're CISOs now. They're making good money, and they're always like, okay, so what's the next steps? Generally, you have 3 steps after this. You start your own business, you retire, or you join a venture capitalist company. Um, so understanding those 3 areas and what's next, having a leadership coach, and also having a mentor who may not be a mentor but a champion of you who can help you navigate to that next path is amazing.
Woo. I may need a nap after this. I'm just saying. Uh, I Shannon, just go ahead. I'm just gonna take a nap.
You're
Go
just
ahead.
gonna
Just
sit through this one, or are you just absorbing it all? Because this
I,
is some
I,
really
I
good stuff.
I'm getting impacted here. I'm getting motivated
I'm
here.
taking
So
notes. I don't know about
Oh,
you, but I've been taking notes this whole time because I'm like, anytime I talk to Jimmy, I'm like, all right, what am I going to learn today? Because his experience is great and the exposure to it. It's like anyone else on this call. It's like you're going to be in the room with some amazing people. Jimmy, you've probably had this too. And taking notes and learning from them, even someone who is your peer, we all have different experiences. So it's what we bring to the table, right? I'm a CEO of a business and I'm still learning from everyone that I'm surrounded with. Anyone, whether they're a CEO, venture capitalist, someone that's doing the day-to-day grind, is something new and interesting always. So I'm always willing to learn and always willing to listen, right? Even if I think I don't know it all, at the end of the day, none of us ever know it all, right? It's all about who you surround yourself with to continuously to keep learning and growing and get to the next stage. And so as you're doing this, Jimmy, I'm like writing my own notes, and I'm sure you're doing the same because you're sitting here saying, wait,
Yes.
I didn't think of what she just said. Let me put that down
I
and let me
think,
get to this point.
no, one of the best quotes I've heard is when your cup is too full, you need to go get a bowl. You know, because just
Okay.
keep it going. Don't stop, because there's so much more to go. Like one of the things, so that's one of the things I'm trying to, and I'm going to plug ISA International for this, and what we're doing is that I'm working with Doreen Benyel, and she is going to expose ISA members and guests to the world of venture capitalists. So she's a top Israeli VC, and she's going to be doing these interviews and things and writing papers about what does the world of venture capitalists look like. Because one of the questions people always ask me is, Jimmy, how do I get on venture capitalist boards? How do I get funding? Of what does that even look like? How do you even get into the room? What does a pitch deck look like? What does your elevator pitch look like? So all of these like questions about that, because if you're not in with a VC, you're not going to start your own company unless you can be bootstrapped, and being bootstrapped is amazing. But the reason why you go with a VC is hopefully you elevate that bootstrapping so that you can reach a greater audience faster. But you need to understand that world, and you need connections in that world as well.
So true.
I
Well,
love
it's
that.
trusted, right? It's not
Yeah.
even a connect.
Yes.
It brings you to the table as a trusted person that they're not wasting time on. And that's the part, because at the end of the day, a lot of people who are trying to chase them. So having
Yes.
that ability, right? Bootstrapping and proving yourself is a trusted way, right? Because they know you haven't asked for it and you've proven your capability.
But
But when
it's
you have
almost
that
like being like the top rapper, right? Like the top rapper, all these junior rappers or junior musicians are always trying to give you a demo tape,
yeah.
and you get like 1,000 demo tapes. Like I can't listen to 1,000 demo tapes, So
I could
Oh,
tell you had tried this, Jimmy. You're gonna have to drop some tracks for us at some point.
oh yeah, me with the tracks. No, it
um,
was crazy because I used to always wonder what was the world of venture capitalists. I always thought it was something like mysterious, like Wizard of Oz type of thing. And then about like 9 years ago, I got exposed to my first real VC, and it's been amazing ever since.
Yeah, I love what this brings to the table, which to me is a little bit of the evolution of educating and elevating, right? I'm huge on educating and elevating. This is the transition, right? We've seen the industry in the last 20 to 30 years evolve, right? So back in the day, it was COO, and then it became CIO, and now it's CISO. Every one of those needed to understand the business, needed to understand finance, needed to understand the cash flow, in, out, small, large, or otherwise. And this evolution and kind of inclusion of, hey, PE, VC, and all
Yes.
these other aspects are the things that are so, and I'm going to call it out, a little bit elitist, right? Because they have to be. They can't listen to every mixtape that somebody gives them, or every mix, or every, right? They have to be very selective. It has to be a trusted component, Shannon, like you said, right? Hey, I know Jimmy. Jimmy's incredible. He's solid. You got to listen to him, right? Which is what I talk about with building relationships, with why I do so many calls and cafecitos and this and the other, right? It's I want to get to know you, right? How can I help you? And building that kind of relationship is huge. So yes, I love that. I will be number one signing up for that VC piece. One, because I want to learn, and two, I want the exposure, and then three, if I can help somebody in that scenario who's sitting there going, what does PE mean?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So I was so excited because she has an amazing game plan. She's already laid out all the articles. She's already got the CEOs lined up. And so I'm happy that she's able to bring this to ISA members um, for that. But
Huge.
one of the other things that this brings up that we were talking about, it's almost like your North Star, but it's not. It's an integrity piece. And to me, the word integrity simply means, what is your brand? How consistent have you been over time? because one of the great things that I've done is I've reached out to several people, and over the last month, and almost everybody said, "Yes, Jimmy, we would love to work with you and ISA International." And I'm like, "Okay, okay, let's do this, let's do that, let's do that." Like, you may or may not have seen some of my LinkedIn posts where I've been introducing people, um, or where I've been talking about the new SIGs and the new initiatives we have, but we have October is going to be a monster month for ISA International.
Well, I know Mel and I are excited because we're both part of the
Yes.
Cyber Executive Forum. So
Yes.
we're ready to see what's coming down the pipeline.
Yes.
Hey, what is
October.
that? Oh, I don't have that one.
Yeah, this one I picked up or in the spring. But I love this. I love this beyond anything because um, the ability to be able to come in and bring in these programs, the relationships, I'm going to say, be careful what you ask for because you're already drinking from a fire hose and you just added another set of more fire hoses. So, there may be people on this call who may be able to help you get through some of these things and how to help manage. Your East Coast, West Coast folks are here to help you. Anybody who's listening to be able to help and volunteer, anybody who ends up listening to this after the replay, show up and let's help Jimmy.
So one of the first things I told all the executive staff and our board members is that my main goal for ISA International is we have to do things better and not faster. And we have to understand that we're not going to be able to execute all of our goals in days or weeks, but hopefully months and years. So by understanding that vision, you won't get disappointed, because one of the things that I always realized as I was going through my career is that the things that you can overcome, that you can achieve in 5 to 10 years, you have never dreamed of. But you always had that 1 year. Oh, I want to make this amount of money and blah blah blah. Like that 1 year goal. That's not a real goal. That's like a target. But what you achieve over 5 to 10 years is almost groundbreaking in some instances.
I love that. And being able to plant the seeds, make the connections, learn, pivot, right? Again, do I want to be a
Yes.
pen tester or do I want to go to AppSec? Do I want to learn the other domains? Maybe it's physical security. I'd love to be in charge of physical security at a casino. Why? Because I love that command center, right? I love the 85 cameras that you need to find the hustlers on and everything else. No, I don't want to work at a casino in case anybody's interested. I don't gamble. I don't drink. So I'd be really bored half the time outside of the security incidents.
Well, if
But
you're working with security, I don't think you're even allowed to do any of those things. So
yeah, well, this, right. You're not allowed. Sure, Shannon. Right. There's a lot of things we're not allowed to do. But anyway, so by the way, I purposely put myself in the middle because of one thing Shannon said. She said, surround yourself with the people that you want to learn from, that you admire, or otherwise. So, that I'm just saying, Shannon, I'm like, I don't want to put myself in the middle just for any reason. Now we put the guest back in the middle because he's in the hot spot. So walk us through. You've great ideas and vision for what you're doing and how you're doing it. Walk us through some of the other things that you've done with your teams, with nonprofits or anything, because I'm huge on the give back, right? I'm huge on the mentoring. I'm huge on, like, people ask me, hey Mel, how many jobs you have, man? I'm like, I don't know, 13, 14 of them, right? And if they call me a lazy bum, you know where I'm going with this, Jimmy, because we talked about it last week, right? I'm like, don't you be calling me no lazy bum. But and if anybody understands that reference, then you're eye to eye with me.
Yes.
But walk us through the give back. Walk us through whether it's teams or otherwise. How do you do it and still keep a job, manage family, and everything else?
So align your passion. Like, if you're doing something you love, you're gonna do it. And the I walked a fine line in 2022 because I ended up joining too many boards, because I had a rule that if I didn't like the way something was, I would join the board of it to change it. But the problem with that is if you're on too many boards, you stretch yourself too thin and you don't really leave an impact, because it's not just being on a board just to be on the board. Hopefully you're being on the board to contribute and doing things positive. And so, like I said, I've been the president for ISA International for the last 12. I mean, San Francisco, a president for the last 12 years. I was one of the founding or one of the board members of the Information Security Leaders Foundation. I've been, I've been working. I've been the Loney and Merritt College Board of Advisors for like the last 10 years. I was also on the ISA Education Foundation board, which is an amazing board as well, that gives back and gives out scholarships to students in the name of ISA and other institutions. So working on that type of stuff has been rewarding, amazing. I'm on the board of Night Dragon, the venture capitalist company. I've been on the board of other venture capitalists as well, advising them. So it's an amazing thing, but the reason why you do it is hopefully you're trying to do impact, you're trying to contribute, and many of those people are happy to have you, because hopefully you're either contributing your opinion or you're contributing something of value in that. But I can tell you about, like, if you have a question about something specific, I can delve into one of those organizations or something else
Yeah.
entirely.
Yeah, I think to me it's really more about, like, when you show up, right? You have different experiences, you have different people, you have different things that you share, right? And the the thing that I actually tell folks is you have to be purposeful about the time and intentional about the time
Yes.
that you invest, right? Yes. Am I dropping off a few things that I'm doing? Sure. Am I adding a few new things too many too fast? Maybe. But it's that, how do you recommend to folks who don't think they have the time?
So it's funny because the people who tell me they don't have the time are the same security leaders I see having drinks with me at this nice restaurant while we're having steak, or out on the golf course. So your time is what you make it. So if it's really your priority, you'll find the time for it.
Yep.
But if you don't have time for it, that means it's really not your priority, and maybe you should stop saying that you're excited or you really want to do that thing that you're not doing, but you say you want to do. Because one of the things that I've tried my best to be as a leader is I don't say anything until I already have an action plan and dates in place. Because I don't ever want vaporware. I've worked and done enough stuff in Silicon Valley where we promise stuff and we under deliver. I hopefully don't want to promise anything that I can't over deliver on. And, that's why I haven't even told you about, like, the ISA International Mentorship Program that we're going to have coming out, but I'm not going to tell you about that because I haven't published that
It's
yet.
out of the bag. We're
So,
live, brother. There's no
so,
editing.
so, so, so we're not over delivering that. I want to tell you about the emerging technology SIG, where hopefully we'll be one of the leaders in terms of artificial intelligence and quantum computing and chaos engineering and all of that stuff. We have an amazing, amazing, amazing things to do. But once again, you have to have the passion and you have to have the intentionality, but you can't. That's the difference to me between a leader, once again, and somebody who's put in a position of leadership. Because it was funny because I was intentionally quiet for about 3 to 6 months after I left Netflix, and I was traveling and I was working behind the scenes. And a lot of times people think because they're in a position of leadership that they're a leader. When no, you just have a job title. And there's a difference, right? Like, you're managing somebody, you have a job title. It's great you have an amazing job title. It's great that you're, hopefully getting a good salary, but that doesn't make you a leader. A leader is what happens when you have to make the tough decision and when the lights aren't on you all the time as well. Like, what are you doing? How are you building yourself? How are you building your team? How are you building the people around you? That's the type of thing that I tell people when they say they don't have time for something.
So true.
Oof. All right.
Right. It's
Shannon,
in
I need a
everything in
nap.
your life, though. It goes back to the whole point. You don't make it a
Yes.
priority and you don't work on it. If you don't work on it, it's not a priority. You're not going to do it anyway. So whether it's going to the gym, spending time with people, calling somebody work, it's across the board. So it is so true. It's like, what is important to you? And it goes back to what is your goals? So that if you want that leadership and that guidance, someone's going to sit there and say, well, if it's not on your goals and you're really not willing to work on it, even if it's 30 minutes a week or an hour a day, what is it that you really want to do? And are you willing to do the work to get there?
And one of the things that unfortunately we get caught up in, and obviously I'm as guilty as this as almost anybody else, is we sometimes say what we think people want to hear us say. Like, oh, I want to be, a great person to everybody, right? Or, I want to be the Dalai Lama, whatever that mystical thing is. And I tell people I don't necessarily want that, because sometimes hopefully your goals can be selfish to you, but they may benefit other people, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to be true to yourself. Like it was funny because like people would tell me, oh, Jimmy, I don't really want to leave this job to make more money for this other job or something. I'm like, if you want more money, go get more money. Like there's nothing wrong with saying you want more money, but you can't do things for other people.
All right, I gotta jump in here. Okay, so Jimmy, stop reading my posts, okay? Because I may or may not have just posted and announced that I submitted the second chapter to the second book just recently. First chapter, because by the way, you can get the transcripts of this so you can prove that I'm not calling them out. First chapter, I called Moving from Selfless to Selfish. Right. And you just said you got to be thinking about yourself. And Jen, and you said about your goals. You know what the second chapter I just submitted for the second book?
Hopefully
Be
value and
true to
money.
yourself.
Oh,
Be
yes,
true to
yes,
yourself. And you
yes.
just dropped both of them in one comment, right? So from a mindset standpoint and from a leadership standpoint, that's exactly what you need to do, right? Everybody talks about put your air mask on first before you try to help anybody else, blah, 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 right? That's money. So at least I feel confident that hopefully the chapters that I'm including in these books on empowerment are in the right direction. So thank you for that. And I love this. It was like 2 or 3 minutes ago, you dropped some nuggets on some of the exclusive new offerings that you have to now deliver on, because this is memorialized in multiple platforms. So thank you for that.
Hmm.
We have a couple of minutes. I love this. We could be here for another 2, 3, 4 hours. I know it. Walk us through what's next. What's your journey? How do you want to close this out, brother?
So honestly, what's next is making ISSA International more amazing, of working with the board, working with our members. I've been being intentionally talking to members, traveling to locations, hearing what they love about ISSA, what they don't love about ISSA, what they think can be improved, and because and ensuring that I don't promise that I will do that, because I can't, and ISA International can't do everything, and we can't do anything for a specific region because we're an international organization. So hopefully we're doing things for the greater good. But hopefully the good things that we're doing are consistent, and we're doing it with integrity, and it's bringing value and excitement to our base. So that's what I'm working on. So I have a lot of, I've been doing LinkedIn announcements almost every day about things. It will continue until October, um, for that.
We're
I missed my
excited.
deadline to submit an article yesterday, but that's okay. I'll try to catch the next one
Yeah,
where
because I had told,
hopefully
because you remember you.
I
So
know.
what Mel is alluding to is he and I, we had a one-on-one conversation because I wanted him to actually contribute some things to ISSA as well. Like I ask everybody, hey, reach out to me, and it doesn't even have to be ISSA, because I've realized that you join the group where you think that's where your family is, that's where you're with. So one of the things that we're working on is I've already reached out to Cybersecurity. I'll be reaching out to Isaka. I'm reaching out to other organizations to where we can find synergies within each other.
Right, and you're going to reach out to Raices org, Eric Bellardo, and
Yeah,
you're going to
yes.
right
Oh
because
no,
that's such an
I
important.
did that. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm just saying, get, I may or may not be highly interested in that group at this point. Uh, Jimmy, thank you so much. This is incredible. I know we had to reschedule, but honestly, I'm really glad that everybody got a chance. That the few folks that may have joined to kick off their week with listening to you, your leadership pieces, Shannon, your leadership pieces, Shannon. What do you want to leave this world, the next this hour, this world here with, ma'am?
I don't. Blah, 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 blah. Words are not coming out as fluid as Jimmy's. What do I want to leave? I mean, I at this point, I'm very excited to have been able to participate in this as well as any, because I'm always continuously learning. But for the audience out there, is never hesitate to ask the question. If you don't know, always ask the question and always look to learn, because you're never going to be perfect and you're never going to know everything, and everything is moving so fast, especially in our industry. Always ask the question and never be afraid to figure out if there's somebody out there that knows more than you. So
I love this, and I have to say, we're going to close this out. I appreciate you both more than you both will probably ever understand, but I'll keep reminding you in every conversation how much and why. Thank you for being part of the Elite Leadership Series. This is already memorialized on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Shannon, High Noon Consulting. We've got Jimmy at ISSA International and me with ETC doing my thing. Have a blessed day, and thank you for all who showed up and who will see this moving forward. Thank you.
Hey Mel, Shannon, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
yeah, thank you for joining, Jimmy. This is great. We were sad we missed you at Black Hat, but we're glad you came today.
Mm.
Hey,
Well,
thank you.
apparently you had time with him at lunch, but I didn't. I'm just saying,
I mean,
he just bailed on
well,
me. As soon as I showed up, he's like, gotta go.
technically speaking, Jimmy gave me a second lunch because I missed the first lunch I was supposed to have with
Oh,
them. So, Jimmy, thank you for making
oh.
the second lunch with me.
So he gave you a whole second opportunity to lunch. He gave me a whole hot minute. Okay. I see you. Okay, all right, awesome. Lunch soon, Jimmy. If you're in town, Shannon. I'll be in New York in about a few hours, but next time I'm up by you, we'll connect.
Yes.
We're all going to be traveling, doing all kinds of things in the next few months. Stay awesome, and thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, guys.